Hello again, Year 9, and this is Lesson 12 of the Living World unit of work, How do plants adapt to the climate and soil in hot deserts? We're trying to understand the adaptations that they make. So, first of all, for a starter, we've got a picture starter, and you need to match the name of the desert to the number on the map. Pause and do this, please. And check your answers. So in number order, it is number 1, Great Basin, number 2, Atacama, number 3, Sahara, number 4, Kalahari and Namib, number 5, Thar, number 6, Arabian, number 7, Western Australia. So today's date and title, please. Now, the extreme climate of hot deserts mean that plants must be able to adapt to the very high temperatures during the day and low temperatures at night, sometimes as low as freezing. The rainfall is low, but it is also very infrequent. There are some areas of the desert that it hasn't rained for maybe 100 years. The driest place on Earth is actually in Antarctica, but the driest hot place on Earth is in the Atacama Desert in Chile, and there is an area there where it hasn't rained for around 300 years. The plants also need to be able to survive in soil which is very infertile and has very little organic matter, and soil which can be quite salty. So I'm going to give you some examples of desert plants. For each one, you need to make a little sketch, just a simple sketch, but you need to put that sketch maybe in the centre of your page and add some labels around it. Also, don't forget to write the name of the plant so that you've got that name as an example for later when you use it in an exam question. So there's a photograph here. You might recognise that person next to this saguaro cactus. You will want to pause here, do your sketch, and then watch the additional clip with Sir David Attenborough, and then come back and we'll carry on with some more examples. So on to the agave plant. Now the agave plant is a very special plant because it can breathe at night time only. So plants don't respire, they transpire, and they do that through small holes in their leaves called stomata. You've probably done about this in biology or in science. Now, the plant takes on carbon dioxide in order to photosynthesize, but if it does that during the daytime, then it will lose a lot of water as well through something called evapotranspiration. When the stomata are open, the plant can lose water. So the agave only opens its stomata at night time. So that's a good adaptation to preserve moisture. Another thing that the agave plant can do is it can remain semi-dormant. The photograph on the left-hand side here, the plant can remain pretty much like that. It's not dying, but it's not growing either. It can remain like that for 20 or 30 years until there is some heavy rainfall, after which it can grow these stalks, as you see in the other photograph. Now these stalks could be maybe 3 or 4 meters high, and on the top of those stalks, that's where the flowers are, where the seeds come from. It grows very quickly after the rainstorm, and then when the seeds are ready to scatter, they scatter in the wind and the whole plant can die off. On to the prickly pear. Now the prickly pear is a good example of something that a lot of desert plants have. They have very thick and waxy skin. They also don't have any leaves. Leaves lose a lot of moisture, so it's a good adaptation to not have leaves. And the very thick, waxy skin also helps to prevent moisture loss. Now, prickly pears and other cacti have two types of root system. They have very long tap roots. They go deep underground to reach the water that is stored as groundwater. It may be 5 or 6 meters deep, but they also have a network of capillary roots. This means that they are very fine roots, very, very close to the surface. Now, because they've got these, if there is a short burst of rain, there won't be very much water on the surface, and if the capillary roots can soak it up very quickly, then it can get all that water before it is lost to evaporation again. And on to tumbleweed. So I agree that the sketch for tumbleweed looks just like a doodle, but the pink flowers there, that's tumbleweed when it's alive and it's flowering. Now, as soon as it's flowered, the whole plant snaps off the roots, and then it all dries out in the hot desert environment, but it tumbles around. So the shape of it is the adaptation. Now, these spherical plants can be anything from about the size of a football to the size of a car, and they tumble around, blown by the wind, and as they tumble, they disperse their seeds. They might have, each tumbleweed could have 250,000 seeds, and that again is an adaptation because there's so few places in the desert where a plant can survive because the soil is so infertile and the rain is so infrequent. So by having 250,000 seeds and by moving around, being blown by the wind, there is more chance that a few of the seeds may land where there is a little fertility in the soil, maybe a little shade, and somewhere with a little bit of water. Now, speaking of seeds, seeds can lay dormant for years. There are even some examples of seeds that lay dormant for over 100 years. So this picture here of the Atacama Desert doesn't look like anything is alive there. But, oh, sorry about that typo there. When the rain does fall, the plants can grow very quickly before all the moisture is lost. So this is the same place, taken from a different angle, I admit, but this is the same area after a rainstorm. And here is another picture. The seeds have been there for 100 years. You wouldn't even realise that they were seed. They would just look like a little grain of sand probably, and then the whole desert area bursts into life after the rainfall, and the plants grow very quickly. They produce their flowers very quickly so that they can produce the seed very quickly. Then when this plant all dies back again and dies away, the seeds can remain there for maybe another 100 years. So you should have, in this lesson, you should have done some sketches. You should have done at least 4 sketches of different plants. You have their names and you have their adaptations written around them. Now I would like you to combine some of these elements by designing your own plant, which is specially adapted to the hot desert environment. You can draw it and call it what you like, something appropriate, and then choose at least 5 of these adaptations that we've seen here and add those to your designer plant. Now please remember to send your work into your teacher. If you finish early, because you're particularly quick at drawing, for instance, you might want to do some research about more desert plants and see what you can find. But for now, thank you very much and see you next time.